Hi, everybody. This is Kim. We're Digital Promises cohort and with Every Learner Everywhere Fellows, and this is our project presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristina Tucker. I just graduated from Oregon State University with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, and I was recently admitted to the Applied Psychology program or a PhD program at Portland State. So my hopes in the future are to do research, which was why I was excited to be a part of Digital Promise, but also I was excited to be a part of all of this. But that's me.
Hey, I'm Kimberli Bruso. I just graduated from KSU with my accounting and bachelor's, and I am enrolled in the MBA for the fall. I'm really excited to be a part of something bigger than just school and being a student, and actually contributing back to student body in some way or some sort.
Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan Dabel. I'm a rising sophomore at the University of Mississippi, majoring in economics and math. And one of the major reasons why I majored in economics is because of education and how well a student does in school kind of relate to how much money their parents make, the environment they are from. So that kind of relates to economics. So yeah.
So the first question we were asked as fellows was, what was our general role as a fellow team and what did we learn or accomplish as a team? So for me, like I said, my role was exactly what I'd hoped to do during this fellowship. I really want to have a career in research. That's why I got into an applied psychology program. The goal of my life is to try to bring resiliency back to people after trauma. So one of the things that we did was go over survey questions with Julie in hopes of making the questions a little bit more understandable, but also sometimes there was confusion with some of the questions. Identify something that was confusing, and that's really important when you're writing surveys. Oh, hopefully my internet connection is working. Says it's unstable. Anyways, so they sent out the survey, and that was one of my favorite parts, was helping with that survey. But we also got to learn RStudio, which is a statistical software program that allows users to write code or syntax to make sense of data that has been collected through surveys, well, at least for us. And it was really challenging to understand how to figure out what to write, according to the syntax to get the information out that you needed, but it was well worth it for me. Being able to use RStudio showed me how important it is to really make survey questions understandable. Looking for, so it can be utilized and used later on. With that being said, after the surveys were sent out and they recently came back, Julie gave me the opportunity to take a subset of the question.
Yeah, Kristina, I think we lost you for a second.
Oh, I got out. Okay. It may be hard to see, but on the right there, you can see that when a teacher actually explains the importance of the course content, that student satisfactions greatly increase. So that was my role as a student fellow with Digital Promise.
Okay, okay, so I'm Kim again. So basically with Digital Promise, we collaborated, deciphered the survey questions that we got. We did some mapping. Basically, looked at the questions, and I believe I got a sample down here below or to the side where all three of us actually took the survey and tried to decipher the questions after with Julie to see if they made sense and what did we understand in the question, which is very important because you want the student or whoever's answering the questions to get the right point across to make sure that they understand it as well, that it's not misunderstood in some way. What I got out of this and what Digital Promise got out of this is I learned RStudio. I cannot tell you how important that is in accounting today, especially when we're looking more towards AI and looking at much more data than accountants ever have looked at before. Through that, we also cleaned the data because there would be people who answered the questions that didn't know or just didn't answer it at all and maybe skipped over the questions. So we had to take that out with, cleaning the data as well. We had to present the data in a way that was comprehensible. So that would be the chart that Kristina had showed that's understandable to everybody and not just the person who's the analyst. And also understanding what the data is telling us, with a conclusion of the data as well. So with all that being said, I just want to say Julie taught me R and she was the best teacher ever.
Yes. So yeah, we definitely did like a survey where like having all three of us, coming from having different background and understanding things differently. So I think it's very important to like have that diversity, because that's how we can have like a equitable survey. And then when we send it out to people, like people can actually relate to it. But me specifically, I started working on R, but then I started working on this where like I was able to like read the answers of the survey from like other students and see what was going on, what was their issues, and like you can see how like I kind of saw like what were the main issues, and then I was able to find solution. And I didn't know that there was a thing called qualitative research, and I was now introduced to it. So yeah, so that was the most interesting part for me, that we like have like a whole field out there dedicating to finding solution to issues. Yeah. So this question asks, did engaging in this project work change our perspective, challenge any assumption, or otherwise push us to think about an issue in higher education differently? So yeah, I wouldn't say the program really changed my perspective, because I've been interested into this thing since like since high school, so I kind of knew what was going on. But I did a lot of things to it where like I came in here angry because I felt like we're in this great country where like we have all this money, we have all this like all those opportunities, and yet we've been having issues in education for years, and we're still like not doing a lot about it. And I felt like things weren't like I felt like in general, like in the US, that things weren't moving quickly, that we could be making change way quickly. But then I realized it's not that easy. Like there is more, there is more to it. The one thing I realized is that systemic problem requires systemic solutions. Well, like you cannot have one person deciding for like everyone, because everyone thinks differently, and like we are all different. So I think it's very good to like have a diverse group of people making decision for everyone, because not everyone is the same. And also Julie introduced me to what qualitative research was, because I didn't know at all what that there was like a whole field out there dedicated to that. And like those are things that I've been doing for a while, like looking at issues and then trying to find solution to them. So yeah, so that's something that I'm like looking forward to learn more about qualitative research.
So I had both a change in perspective and had some of my assumptions challenged. I had no idea that institutions work this hard with places like the Every Learner Everywhere program to try to create more equity and equality in classrooms and for students. This was complete news to me. I assumed that the farthest institutions went in understanding student needs were just like end of the course evaluations that students are often required to do. And so for myself as a student, I'd be frustrated at times with certain aspects of my courses, not being able to find out who to contact when I needed help, or just when I was struggling in general with finances or other personal matters and just feeling like I was alone. So that was the one aspect that I really loved about the survey that was sent out from Digital Promise, is that it looked at multiple issues and aspects of students' lives, not only personally, but through like education and things they might be struggling with, like internet access, like I'm struggling with now, or even having a working computer, or being able to understand like the purpose of a course, or, you know, certain things like that, understanding expectations. So now for me, knowing that places like Everywhere or Every Learner Everywhere exists, it just brings me some hopes. It brings me hope that some of the issues and challenges I have faced will be addressed later on for others, so they don't have to have some of the same problems that I've experienced as an undergraduate student.
So some of the assumptions that I had was, of course, I thought that equitable learning was only regional. And the reason for that is because I worked at a private post-secondary cosmetology and barbering school. And usually what we did was we reached out to local cosmetology schools of the same trade and, you know, worked with them on what kind of education they're doing or giving to their students, what works for them. Did not know it could be so much larger than it actually is, you know, on, you know, a whole United States or even, you know, world level. Never thought that there were the amount of agencies or businesses out there that actually research learning in equitable ways. The new perspective was, of course, wow. You know, I can't get over the amount of people that are actually doing this and working towards learning capabilities to be better for everybody and not just in one region. You know, it blew my mind away. You know, and I also feel that the weight of the equitable learning resides with the college or the school. You know, it's their responsibility to see that the students, all students, learn and are able to learn and provide results for those students in ways that, you know, maybe they don't have because, you know, their situations or whatever. So, yeah. Sorry, that's me and I can't see. Okay, so what was the value we added to the work by bringing lived experiences and subject matter expertise as a student? We worked, again, I worked at private post-secondary school as an administrative. I also did demonstrate some techniques for the students because I was working, or still am working, as a professional hairdresser. I am a student, so I had the student perspective. You know, so being both sides of the table, I was able to balance and maybe have a bigger or an open mind to the questions at hand and who did they address and such like that. When we mapped the questions and their relationships, my views were a little bit different than say Kristina's or Jonathan's, because I saw the flip side. I saw the back scenes of what the teachers are actually doing and maybe what they're not doing, because there are teachers out there that just are there for a job, basically. And I've seen that in the college. There might be one or two, not everyone. You know, so with that different view closer to the professor side versus the student, you know, I was able to maybe offer some advice where I saw was, okay, well, maybe it's just a bad instructor, which I've seen that in the workplace as well. So, okay.
For me, I would say that first, it's like very rare for underrepresented students like to be asked their opinions. I think it's very important to like that we have like a diverse group of students, and then we like ask them their like opinion. But me, I think being a second language learner, coming from Haiti, and then moving to the US in like ninth grade and not understanding English well, and then being a first generation college student and arriving in college and then didn't really know how to go through about college. So like I think I had a different point of view, and I can understand like there are like many other students in the US that go through the same things that I go through. So I think me in this panel, I could I could kind of represent those students and then make sure that their voice are like being heard.
I like what you said there, Jonathan. As a fellow for Digital Promise, I think one of the most important aspects for me in my role was bringing my experience to the survey questions. It may seem like it's a simple thing to do, like change some questions or say you don't understand them. But the questions were really relevant to my experience as a student. And I know that my voice helped clarify some of those questions that were included in the survey. And after seeing how the data is used by Digital Promise when they give the results to the institutions, it made me really aware of how my life perspective matters in terms of survey design and questions, being able to reach students where they're at and not where we assume they're at. Um, I'd say it's important to understand that students are real people, just like I have already mentioned my assumptions and certain perspectives I had before. I'm sure educators and institutions also have their own. And so just being aware that there's a voice to be heard, and like we're all different, but we all add something integral and special is just very important. And I think for me, being a single mom who struggled financially, there was a lot of my own voice that I could add. And I think that that is going to continue, like for each of us. We all have something different that we can add to the story. Um, how would we recommend the network think about incorporating student voice and perspectives into the work streams we've been a part of in our project work and the network as a whole? I think one of the most important recommendations that the network should incorporate is the student voice, in just making sure that this program itself is allowed to continue. I would say for me as a student, it almost relieves some of the anxiety I feel as a student, feeling like my voice is never heard. And so being a part of something like this showed me, the two different sides of the story. And so just knowing that there's institutions out there and places like Every Learner Everywhere that are trying to make changes, are trying to ensure that student success is possible, but then also understanding like how hard it is sometimes to implement those changes. Um, so like with Julie and Digital Promise, sometimes we'd be going over like the questions, or we did a mapping exercise and she would say things like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so I just think it's important to remember that all of our experiences are really different. And when you I hope continue the program, like pooling from different people, that it will allow different voices to be heard. And the only thing that I would say that I would love to see is as a student fellow, being able to participate in some of those like bigger meetings, not necessarily contributing my voice at the time, but just seeing like what goes on behind the scenes, because I've learned through this experience that there is so much work that's being done. And I just think it would be really inspiring to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, so I think with me, it would be same, like just keep the fellowship going, because that's the first time I've seen like companies actually asking people, I mean asking students like their opinion. Usually it's someone some CEO like making all the decisions for us, where like we don't really get like a say. Some I think it's very important to like keep the fellowship going and try to get other companies to like start things like this, because I think it's one of the best way to get result. But second, I think we can like educate our fellows on like other things like public policy, because we all know that public policy is like one of the greatest tools like we can use to like make change in education and in other stuff. And we should also learn about the like relationship of government and in the education system. And we should learn about the history of inequity in our schools, because we have to know like where like it all started to like actually find solutions. And yeah, so it's like very rare for like people from different background, from different perspective, to be asked their opinion. So I think bringing like a different group of people and actually understand what's going on, what they're saying. And I think, yeah, those are the best way we can make change in education.
Yes, keep the fellows program going. Student voice, again, incorporate what equity is. If you don't hear from the students and you hear from just people making up, the educational plan or whatever the course is, they don't really know who's learning what. They're just throwing information in there. Learning also is constantly changing for each generation. My generation, I grew up learning out of books. We're now into digital things. We have computers now. The technology is different. It's constantly changing. Also, how do we learn on these platforms? Is there a better way to learn on these platforms for everybody? And what builds on that is bringing diverse backgrounds to the table so that everybody can learn and advance and have those capabilities. And it doesn't matter, I feel that, all backgrounds, the diversity is going to equal the equivalency in equitable schooling. With that being said, did I mention Julie is awesome because she loves data? And thank you. And do we have any questions that we need to answer for anybody?
Awesome work, Digital Promise team. I'll give a moment for questions to roll into the chat, but thanks for that amazing presentation. So we have a question from Vickiana. Could you elaborate a little more on how your perspectives were expanded through the program and how you changed the way that you saw the education system, or anything that you touched on before?
Definitely. Like in the first slide, I like said, I came in here like angry, or like, I was mad because we have all those tools, all those opportunities, and yet we couldn't really, we couldn't find answers. And like those issues are like have been going on for hundreds of years. And I was like, why can't we just we have all this funding, like why can't we just make change happen? And then I realized it's not that easy. So coming in this, I was looking at the surveys, and like going to meetings and realize it's not that easy to make change that quick. And one of the big thing I realized that we need to stop judging people like individually. Well, like if a student doesn't do well in school, like people would be like, oh, if you had studied a little bit more, if you had like take more time, you would have done well on the test. Well, like in like some cases that may be true, but like you don't know what's going on at home, like where a student is coming from. So I think like I realized that like we need to like look at things more in a more systemic point of view where like we can all relate to it. So yeah.
I hope everyone can hear me. One of the questions was, what's one way that the survey data lead to impactful change? So one of the things that Digital Promise does is, like I said, they send out these surveys, but institutions kind of ask for them in the hopes of being able to better serve their students. And so Tia kind of followed up with another question: when you're analyzing the data, were there any results that were surprising? And one of the things that we found was that certain evidence-based practices do lead to more student satisfaction. So in the case of the question I proposed or talked about earlier, that question was looking at like if teachers identify what's important in the course. So of course there's a lot of times there's tests, there's essays, there's, you know, a multitude of different types of coursework that you have to do. But one of the things that this survey found was that, you know, the teachers saying exactly what was important was very helpful for student satisfaction. And so overall, when these surveys are given out, institutions are able to take back the data or even ask like Digital Promise how certain questions, like if we want to change this, what do we need to do? Where have you seen these results show an impact on students? And so having the data done, they're able to just send that back out to institutions. So the hope is that they'll be able to enact those changes, even if it takes time to do so.
All right, there's one last question in the chat, and then we'll have a couple minutes break before our next presentation. And that question is, through this project, did you identify any specific policies that you would like to see changed? And I imagine that could be at the institution level or broader than that as well. Any thoughts on that from your team?
I have some thoughts on that coming from both sides of the table. As far as specific policies, I personally, and I'm sure a lot of students could speak up for this, that the professor on an online environment needs to engage, and I've said this over and over, needs to engage with the class on a one-on-one somehow through video, through however they need to be able to answer questions live and not by email, because that takes so long. And I know I've said this and I know I'm repetitive, but it seems to help not only me, but other students that are, you know, in the class as well. And I saw this throughout some of the questions and the data where they addressed online situations with learning or being having their professor available and such like that. So that I would like to see happen.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know like a specific policy, but I think that we need to create more policies that will affect students like when they first start to school, because that's when they start like forming their like discipline, the way they think. So I think if we have policies there that can help them grow up to be more disciplined, because discipline goes a long way. And it's very difficult for students to be disciplined. Like for example, me coming from where I come from, I never had my mother to tell me, hey, this time you have to study at this time. Well, like if I had someone at school, like a teacher or like something like that will help me be more disciplined. Well, like now in college, I'll be able to do better. Well, like other students, like they had like all those opportunities. Well, like they're able to like do well because they've been like that's how they were raised. So I think if we if we focus more on the beginning classes, like first grade, second grade, I think we can help the student like become better in the future.